of a new witness that has come forward in the disappearance of Alabama teenager Natalee Holloway, that has told his story about seeing something on the morning of May 30th, 2005, and I thought I'd go to my best source in Aruba, the managing editor of Diario, Jossy Mansur, to talk about that. Hi, Jossy. Welcome back.
Well, thank you, man.
Nice to have you back on the show. It's been, over 3 years. We have a new witness that's being reported. What can you tell us?
Well, this is a new witness that came forward. He has given his testimony in the past to the prosecution, but the prosecution seemed to have brushed him off. So he was taken to the U.S. He was invited to go to the U.S., where he passed 2 different polygraph tests with flying colors that tells us that he is not lying, that he's telling the truth. Apparently, he stated that on May the 30th, 2005, he was asleep at his residence when he was awakened by the frantic barking of some neighboring dogs. He looked at the clock beside him, and it was 4 a.m. He thought that someone was standing outside of his house. He went to a large window, and when he looked out, he saw a young male, white male, walking hurriedly towards the right in the direction of the urban hotels. Then he stated that he got a good look at the white male who was walking under a street lamp, wearing only one shoe. Mm-hmm. He also observed that the man who was coming from the direction of a pond, the Montserrat pond, was soaking wet with muddy water, and that he was wet up to the level of his chest, with his wet clothes clinging to him. Then the witness reported he had never seen the man before, but the situation seemed extremely strange given the time of morning and his appearance. After the man passed by and walked in the direction of the hotels, he sat down in his living room for about 5 minutes. And then this is another part very interesting, is that he observed a car driving extremely slow coming from the direction of the hotel, driven by a middle-aged white male with the same young man riding as a passenger in the front seat. And this is very important, because the one question I've always had and that was never answered is, how did Joran van der Sloot get to his home that eventful night?
Right.
How? Who took him? The Kalpoe brothers denied having come back to get him, pick him up. So this man in a red Jeep is the man who picked him up by the pond and took him home. And we will have this publication on Monday, and the man that was driving the Jeep was his father. So the story becomes very interesting. The timeline seems to make sense in every detail. And since this man passed the polygraph test, I know that Mr. Moss of the prosecution doesn't believe in polygraph tests. He stated that.
Right.
But I do, and most other people do. Because it's very hard for you to lie to that machine when you're all wired up and questions are put to you, and you have to answer without any physiological reactions that will tend to indicate that you're not telling the truth. So that's about the totality of the story that this new witness is telling us, no?
The important aspect of it, not only the fact of the identification, is the fact that the person that he saw walking only had one shoe. And this is something that has been looked at for quite some time in this case. Your thoughts?
Mm-hmm. Well, when they drained the pond, I remember way back, and it's pretty hard to remember every detail now, but I remember that they did find the shoe. I don't know what kind of a shoe it was.
Right.
Maybe it was a tennis shoe of the sort that Joran wears. But they were all given over to the police. And we know what happens to all the evidences that are given to the authorities. I mean, they seem to disappear.
In this case, for sure. Now, this witness not being able to identify, obviously, immediately that evening, how was it to come that it became Joran van der Sloot and Paulus?
Because the next few days, remember, the story broke. All the radios had it on television. And when he looked at the picture of this man, of Joran, in all these breaking news that were happening at the same time in the following days, he recognized him.
Right.
As he recognized his father.
And the part that I find so troubling is that they've spoken to this witness earlier on, and now that he's taken some polygraph tests, even the prosecutor still isn't a big fan of polygraph. Has the prosecution made any sort of comment as far as this witness goes?
The only comments that they make is trying to discredit him for whatever reason. Not with facts, because we're not hearing any facts coming out of the prosecution, but just... what we do hear coming from him is that Paulus is a very nice man, he's a very gentle man, and this. So that kind of cover-up, in other words, what gives us the impression of a cover-up and becomes stronger every time, is all these expressions of this man being such a gentle and nice man, of his discrediting this witness. He had this witness before. This witness did give the prosecution his testimony, but they scared him off. They discredited him.
Do you?
I don't know what game this prosecutor Moss is playing, but we're going to get to the bottom of this.
Yeah, it's a huge game for sure, and you and I both know, Jossy, a cobra looks nice until you pet it, and then it rips, then it bites you and rips your head off. One last question before I let you go, and I appreciate you coming back on, Jossy Mansur, the managing editor of Diario. Our mutual friend Tim Miller from Texas AquaSearch apparently has gone to Aruba and has run into a blockade again from the prosecutor and the Aruban government as far as doing any further searches. I'm going to try and get a hold of Tim later, but unfortunately he's right in the middle of a hurricane, and I don't know if I can get him. Have you heard anything on that, Jossy?
Yeah, I met with him before he left. He left today for the States. I met with him yesterday, and apparently the prosecution has absolutely no interest in tending to him, in receiving him, or even listening to what he had to say. I know that Dave Holloway sent an email to the prosecution asking them to please meet with this man because he has some confidential information to give them. But even so, I mean, they just throw roadblocks in the way. They won't meet with him. They didn't meet with him.
Well, it's so unfortunate. They don't like the term cover-up, yet they're the ones that always seem to be pulling up the covers. Thank you, Jossy.
Okay.
Take care, sir.
Sure.
Bye-bye. That's Jossy Mansur, managing editor of Diario, and yeah, I don't know, your end.